All right, everybody, welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going in deep on something pretty massive, the Pentagon budget.
Yeah, we're talking big bucks here.
Huge. Specifically, we're going to be looking at potential waste and inefficiencies. So think of this deep dive as like your guide to where a team focused on government efficiency might want to start, right? Like, where do they hone in on that massive $850 billion budget? Our source material today, a recent Fox News article, and let me tell you, it is juicy.
It really is. And you know what's so fascinating to me? This isn't just about, like misplaced dollars here and there. It's really about these systemic issues that have actually led to the Pentagon failing its 7th consecutive audit.
Wait, 7th? 7 audits in a row?
Yeah, 7th.
That's got to be some kind of record, right? I mean,
it certainly raises some, serious concerns about their financial management practices, to say the least. I mean, just put it in perspective. Imagine a company failing an audit once, right? Investors would be freaking out. 7 times. I mean, that's unheard of.
Yeah, unthinkable, especially in the private sector. So where do we even begin to, unpack this? The article mentions over 1 million contractors.
Oh, yeah.
Employed by the Pentagon.
A lot of contractors.
More than 1 million. That's almost as many as active duty troops.
It's a key point. And, the reliance on contractors, I mean, it can be a good thing. They bring specialized skills, right? But, over-reliance on contractors, and especially with their inherent, profit motive, can actually drive costs up instead of down.
Right. It's like constantly eating out versus making meals at home.
Yeah,
eating at restaurants is convenient, but your grocery bill is a lot less painful when you cook at home.
Exactly. And that's kind of the same idea here. Like, bringing some of those functions back in-house could be a solution. Maybe not every meal, but enough to, make a dent in that budget. Now, those eye-popping examples of overspending.
Okay, yeah, this is where it gets really interesting, or maybe just outrageous.
A little bit of both.
$1,300 for a coffee cup. Soap dispensers marked up 8,000%. I mean, come on, who is approving these purchases?
I know, right? And those anecdotes are more than just shocking headlines. They really expose a deeper issue, a lack of oversight and accountability in procurement. Think about it. If a simple coffee cup is inflated that much, what's happening with the larger, more complex contracts?
It's kind of terrifying when you put it that way. And speaking of, big ticket items, the article brings up Elon Musk's pretty blunt critique of the F-35 fighter jet program. Yeah. He called it the worst military value for money in history.
Yeah, and Musk's statement, it's provocative for sure, but it is a simplification of a complex issue. I mean, the F-35 program has been plagued by, delays, technical challenges, massive cost overruns.
But wouldn't canceling a program that big be incredibly difficult?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, thousands of jobs are tied to the F-35 across multiple states. So the economic and political implications of just canceling it would be huge.
So what's the alternative? Just keep, throwing money at a program that's not delivering.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily. It's not about a simple yes or no to the F-35. It's about evaluating its effectiveness against its cost. And then, even a bigger question, could those resources be better allocated elsewhere? Like maybe investing more in drone technology or other, more cost-effective defense systems.
Right. It's like deciding whether to fix up that old clunker car or invest in a new fuel-efficient one.
Exactly. You got to weigh the costs and benefits. Look at those long-term implications. Speaking of long-term strategy, the article also brings up this question of the nuclear triad, the continued relevance of land-based ICBMs.
Wait, remind me, what is the nuclear triad again?
Right, so the U.S. maintains 3 methods of nuclear deterrence: land-based intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, submarine-launched ballistic missiles, SLBMs, and strategic bombers. That's what's known as the nuclear triad. The idea being that if one leg is compromised, the other 2 can still retaliate.
Okay, I see. So why are land-based ICBMs being questioned?
Well, they're stationary targets, which makes them, potentially more vulnerable in a modern conflict. And with the increasing accuracy and sophistication of those, submarine-launched and air-launched missiles, some argue that the land-based ICBMs are becoming kind of redundant and unnecessarily risky.
But wouldn't, getting rid of them create a gap in our nuclear deterrent? I mean,
that's the traditional argument, sure. But with advancements in the other 2 legs, the necessity of maintaining the land-based ICBMs it's a debate worth having. It's about balancing those security concerns with budgetary realities and evolving technology.
Okay, so we've got potentially bloated contractor costs, questionable spending on simple items, an expensive fighter jet program being debated, and now the potential obsolescence of a major part of our nuclear strategy. Where else could we even begin to trim this massive budget? Welcome back. I don't know about you, but this deep dive into the Pentagon's budget, wow, it's giving me some serious information overload.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in for sure.
We've uncovered some pretty wild stuff so far. But how do we even move from just highlighting the problems to like actual solutions?
Right. Well, before we get to solutions, we gotta address that elephant in the room, Congress.
Oh, yeah.
They're the ones who control the purse strings. And historically, they haven't exactly been super keen on slashing defense spending.
But why is that? It seems like, just about everyone agrees there's waste, right? So.
Well, it's a little more complicated than it might appear on the surface. First, you've got the influence of, lobbyists and defense contractors. They wield considerable power on Capitol Hill, and they definitely benefit from maintaining that high level of defense spending.
So they're basically like protecting their own interests.
You could say that. And then there's the issue of jobs, right? Defense spending creates jobs, often in, specific congressional districts. So politicians are understandably reluctant to cut programs that support their constituents' livelihoods.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, it's all connected to politics and re-election, isn't it?
To a large extent, yeah. But, there's also a genuine belief among a lot of lawmakers that a strong military is essential for national security. They view a large defense budget as a necessary investment, even if it means, accepting some inefficiencies along the way.
I get that nobody wants to, compromise national security or anything, but isn't there a way to be, strong and fiscally responsible at the same time? Just strike a balance.
That's the challenge, isn't it? Finding that sweet spot where we're investing in a robust defense, but, without the unnecessary waste. One solution the article mentions is base realignment and closure, BRAC.
BRC, right.
It's worked before, but it can be politically tricky.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that before. Closing bases means upsetting communities and, potentially losing votes, so.
Exactly, but the reality is that we may just have more bases than are strategically necessary. I mean, the world has changed significantly since the Cold War, right? And we need to adapt our military posture accordingly.
So how do we make BI happen without, triggering a political firestorm?
Well, it requires strong leadership from both the executive and legislative branches. Transparency is key, having clear criteria for base closures, and in a plan to mitigate the economic impact on those affected communities.
Sounds like a delicate balancing act.
It is.
Careful planning and a whole lot of political maneuvering.
Precisely. It won't be easy, but it's a conversation that needs to happen. But, BIA is just one piece of the puzzle. There are other potential avenues for reform out there.
Give me some hope here. What else could we do?
Well, streamlining the acquisition process is crucial. The way the Pentagon buys weapons and equipment, it's notoriously convoluted and bureaucratic, which leads to inefficiencies and inflated prices.
Oh, yeah. I've heard those stories about the military paying, a fortune for really simple items, like ridiculous markups for things like hammers and toilet seats.
Right. And it's not just about those inflated prices either. The bureaucracy also causes delays and cost overruns. We need to make that acquisition process way more efficient and transparent.
So less red tape and more accountability.
Exactly. Another area that's ripe for reform is the Pentagon's reliance on those contractors. Like we discussed, overdependence on them can drive up costs.
Right, because they're driven by profit, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily by, serving the public good. So they're not always incentivized to find the most cost-effective solutions.
That's right. And we need to carefully evaluate which functions could be brought back in-house, potentially saving, billions of dollars.
It seems like there are a lot of potential solutions out there, but they all involve navigating this really complex web of political and economic interests. It's kind of overwhelming to think about.
I know, but that's the nature of government reform. It's rarely easy, but it is essential to ensure that those taxpayer dollars are being used wisely and effectively.
Okay, so let's say I'm convinced. What can I, as an ordinary citizen, do? Does my voice even matter in this massive bureaucratic machine?
Absolutely it does. In a democracy, citizen engagement is crucial. Stay informed about the issues, contact your elected officials, make your voice heard, demand transparency and accountability from those in power.
Don't be shy about speaking up.
Exactly. Another thing you can do is support organizations and think tanks that are working to promote, government efficiency and fiscal responsibility. There are a lot of groups out there doing excellent work, but they need public support to be effective.
Power in numbers.
Exactly. And be skeptical. Don't just accept the status quo. Question assumptions, challenge conventional wisdom, and demand better from our government.
So it's not just about, cutting the budget. It's about fundamentally changing how the Pentagon operates, creating a culture of efficiency and accountability.
That's the heart of it, a long-term goal, but achievable if we all do our part. Speaking of long-term goals, let's circle back to Elon Musk's critique of that F-35. Remember, he called it obsolete in the age of drones.
Yeah, he didn't mince words, but is he right? Are drones the future of warfare?
Well, drones are certainly a game changer. They offer advantages in terms of, cost and flexibility, but they're not a silver bullet solution. They have their own limitations, and they raise, their own set of ethical questions.
So what does this mean for these expensive fighter jet programs like the F-35?
Mm-hmm.
Could we shift resources towards drones and other emerging technologies? I mean,
it's a conversation worth having. We need to constantly evaluate our defense priorities and invest in the technologies that best meet the challenges of the 21st century.
Right. We can't be stuck fighting yesterday's wars with yesterday's technology. It's like trying to navigate with a paper map when you have, GPS.
Exactly. As the world evolves, so too must our defense strategies and our approach to military spending. This deep dive has uncovered some potential areas for improvement.
And that brings us to the end of part 2 of our deep dive into Pentagon spending. We've explored the complexities of reforming this massive budget, and we've touched on some potential solutions, but we're not done yet. Welcome back to our deep dive, everyone, the final part of our look into the world of Pentagon spending.
Yeah, it's been quite the journey.
A wild ride. From those overpriced coffee cups
to
the complexities of fighter jet programs and even the nuclear triad.
I think we've really gone deep, uncovering all those layers of bureaucracy,
right.
Examining those potential areas of waste and inefficiency, and even kind of questioning some long-held assumptions about defense strategy.
But before we wrap up, I want to kind of connect all this back to you, the listener. Why should you care about all of this?
Well, I think first and foremost, this is about your money. Taxpayer dollars are what fund the Pentagon. You have a right to know how those dollars are being spent and whether or not we're actually getting our money's worth. You know,
more than just dollars and cents, though, right?
Oh, absolutely. The Pentagon budget, it's a reflection of our nation's priorities. It shapes our role in the world, and it has implications for everything from national security to economic well-being.
So it's about, accountability, transparency, and ensuring that our defense spending actually aligns with our values and strategic goals.
Exactly, and that's where you, the informed citizen, come in. Like we've discussed throughout this whole deep dive, your voice matters. Engage with the issues, right? Contact your representatives and demand better from our government.
Don't be afraid to ask tough questions, challenge assumptions, and really push for real reform.
Remember, this isn't about, crippling our military. It's about making it smarter, more efficient, and more accountable to the American people.
We need a military that's equipped to face the challenges of the 21st century, not one that's, bogged down by outdated practices and wasteful spending.
Exactly. Now, before we finish up, I want to leave you with one final thought, something to kind of consider as you continue to explore this complex issue. If you were tasked with actually trimming the Pentagon's budget, where would you even start?
Oh, that's a great question. It really forces you to think critically about priorities, doesn't it?
It does. Would you focus on cutting those wasteful programs, investing in emerging technologies, streamlining bureaucratic processes? What trade-offs would you even be willing to make?
These are tough questions, but they're the questions that we need to be asking ourselves as citizens. The answers, they're going to shape the future of our nation's defense and our role in the world.
And remember, this deep dive, it's just a starting point. There's always more to explore.
Always more.
To question and to debate.
Right.
So keep learning, keep thinking critically, and keep those questions coming. That's what makes a true deep diver.
All right, everybody, that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.